Hello and welcome to the MyClayCo studio. My name is Carla and today we are going to be talking about how to get started in polymer clay. So whether you're starting a new hobby or you actually want to start up a new business, there are a couple of things that you'll need to get started with polymer clay, and we'll cover all of those ones today so that you can start on your creative journey. Let's get into it. So the first thing that you will need to get started with polymer clay is to actually determine your purpose. Are you wanting to start this as a hobby, a new creative expression that you could do in your spare time? Or are you actually wanting to start a small business from this? From those, you'll also then want to determine, what do you want to make? Are you into miniatures or home decor or jewelry making? All of these things are actually going to determine how you approach getting started with polymer clay and the different tools that you'll actually need to get started. So once you have your purpose locked in, we can then move on to the next step. So now that we have our reason for doing polymer clay, we then want to move on to joining the community at large. So whether you're going to be doing it online or in person, you really want to try and focus on why you're wanting to do polymer clay and then try and match up with groups that fit that. So if you're doing it to get started just as a hobby, then you might just want to do beginner techniques and join a forum that is just beginner polymer clay. But if you're wanting to do it as a business, let's say, you might also want to start joining groups on handmade businesses and how to run a small business, especially in your either country or local area. You can also join in-person groups, so a lot of like local community halls or community groups, libraries, they can put on a lot of community activities or events, and you can always look those up if you do feel like you want to have a more in-person experience. So now that we have the reason for why we're doing polymer clay, and we've also joined some like-minded people in those communities, whether that be online or in person, we can actually start delving into learning the ropes of polymer clay. I think it's really important to do this before you actually start purchasing equipment and polymer clay itself, because you need to kind of know what you're doing before you start getting that equipment, because someone doing jewelry making is purchasing very different equipment and polymer clay to someone who wants to do model making for tabletop gaming. They're two very different types of polymer clay creating. So you want to try and learn for those specific techniques on what you want to create. And depending on who you are as a person will also determine how you like to ingest learning. Some people really like physical books, which you can pick up a number of polymer clay books and learn that way. Or if you're more of a visual video type learner, you can 100% jump on YouTube and probably find exactly the technique or the style that you are looking for. Scrolling through social media, looking through Pinterest boards, there's so much information out there and a lot of tutorials as well that are free. If you're a little bit more structured though, you may want to do a purchase tutorial such as a Domestica course. There are a lot on polymer clay, and if you want specific skill sets in a very structured way, you can purchase a course through a site like that. If you're kind of a mix of you like reading, but you also like the online world, there are so many blog posts or, as I said, forums that you can join that people are sharing their information. Blue Bottle Tree, Ginger runs that one, and she is a great polymer clay artist. She has so much helpful information on her website and is a great learning resource, especially for people getting started with polymer clay and wanting to know the ins and outs of what polymer clay is and what it can do for you in your creativity. So now that we've covered all of the theory side of how to get started with polymer clay, we need to buy some polymer clay. So what polymer clay is best for your project? This is where your community comes in handy. You can go to that community and say what you are wanting to create, and they'll be able to use all of their knowledge and give you exactly what you will need. Jewelry makers, for example, that we deal with most of the time, really love Sculpey Primo and also the Cernit brands. Those are really great and tried and tested in the jewelry world so that they know that they're going to do fine. You just want to make sure that whatever it is that you are wanting to do, you're finding what the best clay is for that project. I highly recommend polymer clay communities for this because they're a wealth of knowledge and a lot of people just wanting to help out, and they will steer you clear of the polymer clays that will not work for your project. Once you've actually sorted out what polymer clay you need for your project, we then have the final piece of the puzzle, which is all of your equipment. Of course, you will need an oven to bake your polymer clay in. It can be baked in your home oven, and that's where a lot of people actually start. If you're just making a couple of pieces here and there, you can pop them in your home oven, and as long as you don't burn them, it's totally food safe for you to then also bake food in that oven. I will say that if you are doing it for a small business, eventually you may want to look at getting either a second oven for your home or even one of those little benchtop ovens that you can get. Just make sure it doesn't have a grill function or you will burn the tops of all of your pieces. Now, once you've got your polymer clay and your oven, you can then start getting into the other little pieces of equipment that you need. I will say 3 pieces of equipment that you will need regardless of what you are doing is some kind of baking surface. We like to use gloss white tiles, but some people just like to use a baking tray with baking paper on it. So some kind of baking surface. The next one is a roller of some description so that you can roll out your clay and make sure it's nicely conditioned. And if you're needing to do things like jewelry, making sure that it's rolled out to a nice even thickness. And of course the last one is blades. So whether that be tissue blades or craft knives, something that you can either carve away or cut out shapes of your clay, whatever it is you need to do, those are kind of the 3 essentials that you will need. Then depending on what you are going to be specializing in with your polymer clay, you can then start adding tools and other equipment to it after you've purchased those bare essentials. Now, businesses like us have actually created starter packs or starter kits for specific things. So we have our jewelry starter packs and our stud making starter kits. So they're a really great way for someone who's just getting started to go, right, I know I can purchase that and it'll have everything that I need in it. So to recap, you want to make sure that you really understand the reason why you're getting into polymer clay and what you want to get out of it. Join those community groups so that you can find your like-minded people and ask questions when they come up, because they will come up. You also want to make sure that you are ingesting as much information as you can. Watch all the tutorials, look at all of the photos, read all of the blogs. You want to make sure that you're really understanding what polymer clay is all about so that it helps you when you're actually in that creative space. Get your bare essential equipment sorted, whether it be in a kit or just purchasing those few starter items. And that's pretty much it. You can now start on your polymer clay journey. There are so many different possibilities when it comes to polymer clay. You may find yourself at one point in your journey and then end up somewhere completely different, but somewhere just as creative and fun by the end of it. So it really is a wonderful world to get into. We hope that you have enjoyed the video. And if you did have any questions, of course you can pop them down below and we'll do our best to answer them to the best of our ability. If you did like the video, please like and subscribe as it does help our channel, and we will see you next time.